Hello and welcome back to coverage here at Grand Prix Atlanta. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Ben Seck, and we've got in our feature match area kind of nice one lined up for you here. We've got Ben Stark, the Hall of Famer. He's just fresh off of his 3 buys. He did win the 1 round that he's actually played today, and he is playing an upgraded version of the mono red Ramunap red deck, as we like to call it, that has a lot of the same cards but has taken away some of the middle cards and replaced them with some powerful and a little bit slower options.
Yeah,
and,
go
ahead.
Yeah, so Ben has taken out a lot of the haste creatures. So Earthshaker Kenra and Uncrop Pressures are not in this deck. What he's done instead is actually added a lot more kind of like bigger cards like Rampaging Feroz on main deck. He also has Sand Strangler. To basically beat some of the mid-range decks that he expects to see at this tournament.
On the other side of the table is Shaheen Soorani, who, he tried playing red once. He did not enjoy it, and he pretty much vowed to not do it again. And, he's going to play another control deck. And, of course, this is not the matchup that he wants to see. But the truth is that this is actually what Ben gives up. Yeah. Right, he gives up a little bit of edge to these control decks who have a much better time when you're not playing these cheap haste creatures turn after turn.
Yeah, like it gives Shaheen just maybe an extra turn or two to like get the removal or get something like Scarab God online.
That's right. Now, his deck is a Grixis control deck using cards like Fatal Push, Harness Lightning, Censor, and Search for Escanta, to power out things like Hour of Devastation, the Scarab God, and Torrential Gearhook at the top end.
Yeah, he actually added the red to get cards like Harness Lightning and Abrade, so give it a little bit more like pinpoint removal. I think it's very, very similar to the blue-black control decks, except it has a few better options when it comes to removal. A little bit less, worse mana, but, you can trade that.
And Shaheen probably unaware that Ben is playing this slower version, but he really does give up a lot. One of the cards that Ben has really stretched for here is Sand Strangler. Yeah. We talked about that card before, and when we were having a chat with Ben a few minutes ago, he goes, it kills so many creatures that you care about that cost 3 mana from your opponent.
Yeah, like Rogue Refiner, Will of Virtuoso, those are like perfect targets for Sand Strangler because those cards actually generate advantage. They get energy cards, Thopters, and so the red deck, if you're trying to actually match on a kind of like a card advantage line, you need to have cards like Sand Strangler.
Mm-hmm. Now, you also need to have a lot of deserts to make Sand Strangler work, and you can see there's a Dunes of the Dead there for Ben. That is one of the cards that he has added 3 copies of to make sure he has enough deserts in the deck, but being mono red, he can usually get away with it, and you can see he's going to go ahead and sacrifice it to Ramunap Ruins, but that's going to garner him a 2/2 zombie. But of course, the point I was trying to make earlier about Sand Strangler is not very good against Shaheen Soorani. It's basically a hill giant against him, and I mean, that is so far behind the curve for what you expect from a standard card these days that it's a real liability.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing about Ben's deck, he actually eschews like the full set of Hazarets, which is actually another thing that's actually generally pretty good against control because, it's indestructible, so it's very, very hard to
demand specific answers, right?
Yes. He does have a Hazaret, but and he also has a dragon here with Glorybringer.
Yeah, so Glorybringer is going to hit the battlefield, but will it resolve? It looks like it's going to be Torrential Gearhook here for Censor, which means that, in fact, it does not, and that is a huge setback there.
Yeah, Ben talked to us a bit earlier, and he definitely knew he was giving up this match or a control matches in general. So decks like Grixis Control, Approach, like Blue-White Approach, or maybe Jeskai Approach are a little bit worse.
And now we see Shaheen Soorani fully turning the corner here as he plays out a Scarab God.
Yeah, Ben's side of the board looks really anemic to, the Gearhulk and...
I think we're going to see a Sand Strangler here. He attacked in. There it is. Old Sandy's going to set back the Scarab God a whole turn.
It was 2 for 1 for a split second until it came back from the graveyard. But Shaheen looking like in full control of the situation.
Yeah, this one does not look particularly close. Now, I am curious to see how things go post-sideboard, assuming that Shaheen is able to pick up this win here, just because we know that if Ben says, okay, I'm going to change my deck to benefit me in the matchups I expect to play the most, but if he has his one of Hazaret here.
Okay.
And a Bomac here. Okay, this is getting a little more interesting. Like, Hazoret is still a problem. You know, the Torrential Gerhult can do a good job of holding Hazoret back if Shaheen just decides to stop attacking.
I think his plan is basically to start chumping because he's already at 10, so he's kind of a little low to the 5 power creatures. But he may... Yeah, okay. So, unfortunately, Ben's blocker has basically got removed, and he got attacked for 10. That's
right. So that you saw Shaheen go for the Bomat Courier there on end step and then untap and set up the win. So that's going to do it. Game number 1 goes Shaheen Soorani. He was never really behind in that game in any significant way. But as we mentioned before, you know, this is a thing that Ben is keenly aware of. He said, look, against the approach decks, which this doesn't happen to be, but against these control decks, my deck is worse than it would have been had I kept it regular. And so that means that he's going to need to now make some changes.
Yeah. So I think the Sand Stranglers definitely look like they're coming out. He's going to put more powerful threats at 4 mana.
All right, let's take a look at what the Bard is up to. Brad Nelson playing against Todd Scott. And Brad's on Yawn, Temur Energy. I'm sure he's got some tech in this deck, though, or some configurations. You know, this is the most consistent, solid deck in the format, but it is also one that we have seen, you know, a fair bit of. In the meantime, Todd is on the Esper Godpharaoh's Gift deck, and it looks like he is doing his thing here. He's already got Godpharaoh's Gift out, and he already has an Angel of Invention.
Yeah, it looks like Brad has to really kind of push a little bit because the reanimated Angel of Invention is gaining Todd some life here. It's going to make it really hard to race. Oh, he uses Harness Lightning to get rid of the Angel.
Yeah, it looks like it had blocked a Long Tusk Cub, and then he used the rest of the energy to finish it off. Of course, that was the token, so it is gone. We can't quite see Todd's graveyard, but if he doesn't have anything else to get back of consequence with the Godpharaoh's Gift, though, I think we did see a Champion of Wits in there. Yeah. That just died. And this is a massive problem.
Yeah, no, it'll get him 4 cards. He gets to discard 2, and obviously discarding creatures is, you know, exactly what he wants to be doing.
Yeah.
So he can actually return with Godpharaoh's Gift. So he's now deciding. I think I couldn't see exactly what he decided to get rid of, but it looks like he has some creatures in his hand, so he probably got rid of some other creatures.
Yeah, I mean, he may just cast a Hostage Taker here. Kapow. Yeah. Man, every time we come into these matches, it's just control players just windmilling on the more mid-range style decks of their opponents, but I guess all is right with the world as long as that keeps happening.
Yeah, Hostage Taker is one of the reasons you want to be playing Esper versus something like the blue-white deck that Pascal Maynard played last week at the Pro Tour. So it gives you access to things like Scarab God, Hostage Taker, some other kind of threats as well as removals.
Yeah, that Godpharaoh's Gift deck really making a splash in the hands of Pascal. He was playing just a straight blue-white version, but, you know, people have been adding and subtracting a third color from it, just trying to get it right for the metagame. But impressive showing, of course, with Pascal making it all the way to the finals and going the full distance with the deck. You know, he was as close as you can get to winning the Pro Tour with it as you can get.
Really close, really great match, great games versus Seth Banfield. So Ben, after sideboarding, is really kind of likely to take out his Sand Stranglers and add better 4 mana threats, such as he's got a Chandra, he's got 2 more Hazarets that he's not playing obviously in the main deck. Those cards are really going to be powerful against Shaheen's removal. Shaheen's actually going to probably bring in Multiform Wonder, which is a way of gaining life, as well as Virtuoso, because he probably thinks that Ben's deck is very similar to the old style Ramunap red decks, because I mean, yes, he did play Sand Strangler, yes, he did play Glorybringer, but he doesn't know how different Ben's deck is from what traditionally is Ramunap red. Ben had a good start to last weekend's Pro Tour. He actually started the tournament 7-1, but unfortunately did not have as good a day 2 and just kind of
he
fell
bombed out real hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a beating.
He joked on on Twitter that he maybe he only has one good Pro Tour day in him now. Now he's getting a little on.
He's too old for to have 2 good days at the Pro Tour. I don't think that's true. Do you think that's true?
I don't think so, but there is something about endurance that is a factor in things like Pro Tour. I don't think Ben is going to have a problem with it, but I think being able to concentrate over 2 days and maybe 3 days if you make the top 8.
It's true.
Ben off to a bit of a slow start. Go for a Ferocidon, which is not that good against Shaheen, but it is a 3-3 for 3.
Yeah, it did resolve too. I mean, anytime that you're in Ben's seat, you're really just hoping, don't censor this. It's so annoying when you get censored, but manages to not. And you know what? This Ferocidon's actually getting in. Yeah. If Shaheen doesn't have an answer for it, that could be responsible for 3, 6, 9 damage.
Yeah, Shaheen does not have that many sweepers, but he does actually have 2 hours of devastation to try and clean up, if Ben kind of overcommits.
Sure. So Shaheen did have the Supreme Will there for the Hazaret the Fervent from Ben Stark.
One of the good things about Rampaging Ferocidon is it has Menace, and so it doesn't necessarily run into Torrential Gearhulk as much. And it's something you don't really expect in the control matchups because, they don't have that many creatures, but being able to attack and knowing that you don't have to worry about, a surprise blocker is really, really important. If you have a look at Ben's, mana base, he's got 3 deserts and a mountain. I wonder if he might
3 colorless deserts.
Yeah. I wonder if he might have some trouble, he might have a Chandra in his hand. Okay.
Well, it looks like he's got a Glorybringer in his hand, and he's going to just slam it.
Yep.
Wow, it actually resolves, it seems.
Yeah, it looks like Shaheen has, some...
What does he have? A bunch of...
card drawing spells. He's got a Whirl of Virtuoso.
Okay, he just wants to use his turn to Glimmer, probably looking for an Hour of Devastation.
Yeah, I think so.
That would be his ideal find here. Go land, Hour, wipe your board.
The thing is, if he doesn't have it, I mean...
he kept both cards.
Oh, okay. Well...
that's business.
Ben has 7 power on the table. Shaheen's at 9, so it's pretty dangerous if he doesn't have it. So
yeah, he could be dead to a Ramunap Ruins after just 1 attack here.
So he doesn't have the Hour because of the sorcery. I wonder, it might be that he has...
Another Glorybringer, but he kept both cards on top, so he has to have answers.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, don't forget your trigger. Good. What could this be? Looks like a Vraska's Contempt.
Okay, so...
that'll put him to 11. He'll take 7, drop down to 4, but that is not where Shaheen Soorani wants to be. No Ramunap Ruins for Ben as of yet, and he is lighter on direct damage spells, but still, this is a precarious position.
Yeah, the Grixis deck doesn't have as much life gain.
And I made a mistake there. He is actually at 2 thanks to the Rampaging Ferocidon preventing the life gain.
Oh, yes.
So right. He's just at 2 life here and facing now 2 lethal threats, plus there's numerous cards in his deck that kill him.
Yeah, I think he wanted to kill the Ferocidon so he could gain life probably from another Vraska's Contempt. But it looks like the cards in Shaheen's hand, he has he has a Magma Spray and he has a Fatal Push, both of which are not particularly good against the Glorybringer. And now he's kind of tapped low, so it may be the time for Ben to strike here.
There's Chandra. That's the win.
Yep.
All he has to do is plus Chandra and say, I don't think I'm going to cast that. And that's going to be 2 damage to Shaheen Soorani. So Ben Stark with a couple of nice sideboard cards there with a little bit bigger. But, all those cards he has in his main as well. So perhaps the draw just came together. But I have to say, from the early turns when he went Rampaging Ferocidon and Shaheen was like, sure. That was bad news for Shaheen. He never really recovered from that point. The only play he made of relevance was countering that Hazaret. Yeah. And beyond that, no go. So we're going to get a game 3 there on that one, which is pretty sweet. And that brings us back to Brad Nelson versus Todd Scott. When we came to this one last time, Ben, we saw Todd kind of just cleaning up the mess here. What are you making of this board state now, though?
Yeah, it looks like... Okay, so it's fairly early. I don't think there's been any land drops missed right now. But the thing is, it seems that Todd has had a good curve. He's probably played turn 1 Minister, turn 2 Seeker, and then turn 3 Champion. And so I think he's actually looking pretty good. He also has a combustible Gearhulk. No, not combustible, sorry. It's a cataclysmic Gearhulk in his graveyard. So if he is actually able to get out the Godfarer's Gift, he may be able to like clean up the board on Brad's side. Brad's version of the deck is kind of, again, also tuned against red and other teamer decks. He actually has 3 confiscation coups, which is like 1 or 2 more than you would normally have.
Right. By the way, things getting ugly here for Todd. That's a Glory Bringer.
Yeah, that's exactly what Brad needs. He needs an evasive threat that can basically make some advance his board position by getting rid of something on Todd's side. Though there isn't that many good targets for the Glorybringer Exert, so he may not do it. I think there's a possibility he won't do it because putting creatures in the graveyard for Godfarer's Gift, not the best way to hit it. Yep, he didn't actually Exert, which makes a lot of sense. Todd really doesn't have that much flying, suppression except for Angel of Invention. Oh, the dragon walked the plank. Definitely one of the reasons you play black. You could get some better removal spells. Rogue Refiner from Brad. It looks like he's just trying to find a threat that can get through these cards. I mean, I think that he doesn't really want to attack with his creatures because putting those creatures into the graveyard is not the best way. And if he has something like a Refurbish, though, I'm not sure if Todd plays Refurbish in this case. A lot of times Esper doesn't play Refurbish. Instead, it plays Gate to the Afterlife.
Yeah, we have seen that. Let me take a look here real quick. We'll find out. Let's see here. Godfarer's Gift. That is not how you spell that, Todd. Gate to the Afterlife ×4.
Okay. But it doesn't look like he's playing any Refurbish. No. So, and it looks like he has one, maybe 2 creatures, maybe 2 or 3 creatures in his graveyard. Oh, he's played a Gonti. I love Gonti in this format.
Can I just shop that sentence even shorter? I love Gonti. Just blinging out on that throne. Just come at me. I don't care if you attack me. I got my value already. I love that card.
Yeah, it feels so bad to be on the other side. It's like, don't touch my deck.
Yeah.
These are my cards.
Yeah, these are mine. Don't cast that. I did not give you. Do not cast my card. And then they just do anyway. And then the best part about it is Gonti just sits there and looks at your Bristling Hydra like, LOL. Like, don't care.
The best Gonti that I was able to do kind of on Magic Online was my opponent's Scarab God, so I started like reanimating creatures from their graveyard, so I didn't even need any creatures on my side of the board. I just used all their ones.
Really?
It's a little bit dirty.
That's great. You kill them with all their own creatures?
Yeah, you know.
I love that.
Turnabout's fair play.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, they brought them to the table.
Yeah.
Were they expecting you to not use them?
I just play the cards that are in my deck. And
or
yours,
yeah.
130 Legacy Challenge
so,
players, your round 2
Brad looks like he's a little flooded. That sometimes happens with the Temur decks. And they don't actually have that many good ways to sink their mana. Oh, Confiscation Coup.
On Gonti!
Yeah.
That's respect right there.
Speaking of playing your opponent's cards, another way of doing that.
Still not a amazing situation here for Todd.
Yeah.
He still has some pretty easy trades to make with the Rogue Refiner if he'd like. Then he can go for a multi-block if he really cares about getting 1 cub off the battlefield. With 6 energy, could be a 5/5.
It doesn't look like he has a Gate to the Afterlife, which is something that Brad's probably worried about. But the fact...
Yeah, that's a good point about filling up his graveyard with creatures.
Yeah, he wants to just avoid that. But I think Brad basically realized it's not... The going's good now. I don't think it's getting better that much.
Two-headed giant sealed spectacular players. Your pairings have been posted. Two-headed giant sealed spectacular
So
players.
what happened there, TBS? I saw a double block with Champion of Wits and Seeker Squire,
Right.
but it's a 2-3 and a 2-1.
2-3 and a 2-1.
And he only pumped that cub to 3-3, right?
I think so. It may be that the blocks.
Maybe the cub in the back was the one that was getting blocked?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I suppose so. It was a little confusing because it looks like the cub with the 1 counter, but, for us up here in the booth, we're kind of on a porthole. We can't really just go down and ask. All right, well, it sounds like our main match is back underway, so we're actually going to head back over there.
Shaheen's on the play. Ben has already gotten the Soulscar Mage onto the table.
Yeah, that one did make the cut. It stayed on after. And, of course, those are the type of cards that you want against this Grixis control deck. If Ben can stick a couple of threats underneath counter spells, it puts a lot more pressure on Shaheen to come up with removal-based answers for the creatures. And, when you start forcing the Grixis deck to have answers to kind of everything, that's where it can fall flat.
No, absolutely. Also, I think having 1 mana threats allows you to get around some of the counter magic. It's not, you cast them before that, or you can flip them, kind of like if you play 2 spells a turn. Now, Shaheen just played a Will of Virtuoso, which is obviously really good because it turns a lot of his energy cards into 1/1 Thopters. Oh, and Ben responds with a good response to Will of Virtuoso because, of course, it punishes putting Thopters into play.
That's right.
Oop, Doomfall.
Doomfall. Say goodbye.
Okay.
To the rampaging Ferocodon. And now we see Shaheen getting aggressive. He's figured out, Ben is not on this aggressive, haste-based version of the deck. He's playing a much slower one. And that's really smart from Shaheen. Because normally against red, you're just like, go.
Yeah.
You just don't want to take hits from, Earthshaker Kenra and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I think this is really, really smart. On Shaheen's side. He's figured out what's going on in Ben's deck. And I think a lot of times, I see a lot of players, they make the mistake about staying back too much against a red deck. And so you actually need to kill them at some point, and actually attacking basically reduces the amount of turns they can actually draw other cards like burn spells to try and finish you off.
Yeah. Also, the red decks tend to play horrendous defense. Your Bomat Courier doesn't look great on D, and so you can often apply a lot of pressure and get it to the point where they can't attack you anymore, and then they're just dead. Once the red deck stops being able to attack, it usually ends up being dead. But Ben's list is different. It really is. This is a much slower version of the deck.
So Ben was actually able to get a Chandra into play, but it's really, really tough against a Will of Virtuosos and Energy. So Ben probably needs to find some removal spells, or that Chandra is not going to be long for the world.
Yeah, he used it to cash in 2 damage and then soak up some damage coming the other way. So basically it's been do 2 damage, gain 3 life, and now he's got a Bomat Courier out of it. So you can see how powerful Chandra is even when she's not deployed in an ideal situation. Speaking of sub-ideal situations, here's Hazaret the Fervent, but it looks like Ben has 3 or 4 cards in hand, so he's not going to be doing any attacking or blocking with that for at least until next turn minimum.
Yeah, if Shaheen chooses to actually attack with all his creatures, Chandra will die because Hazaret can't block. And it seems like it would be a good attack because, the only blocker is Bomat Courier. I don't think he really needs the damage. So he can basically get that Chandra for free. Ben's not going to block, obviously, because it would just be throwing away a card. But now it's just Ben's opportunity to try and dump his hand, try and get to 1 or 0 cards so he can actually attack with Hazaret. Alternatively, he could actually attack with Bomat Courier and get 1 card and then sacrifice it, and it would be an easier way to get to 1 or 0 cards with Hazaret, but I don't think it's
a little aggressive, perhaps.
Probably not the most card efficient way, and obviously Hazaret herself has the red and 2 discard a card, do 2 damage to target player, activated abilities, which obviously makes it much easier. I think Ben has another land in hand, so I don't think that's the problem. And getting to 6 mana means he could activate Hazaret twice.
It's a fine way to empty out your hand.
Yeah, he might actually even be able to attack this turn. If he has 3 cards in hand, he can actually discard 2 and then attack.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or cast some stuff. Yeah. He's got at least one Ramunap Ruins in hand.
Yeah, he has 3 cards, so
He's got Lightning Strike to kill a Thopter.
yeah, so
And he's going to just throw Ramunap Ruins at Shaheen's face. But as you said, that opens up the attack here. And he's going to crunch for 6 and even get a card into the Courier. That was a pretty productive turn there for Stark.
yeah, really, really good. Puts him Shaheen down to 13. Shaheen only has 2 energy, so wasn't able to actually make a Thopter. Now kind of Ben has turned it all around. And Shaheen only has 1 card in hand, so unless it's something that draws more cards, he's probably unfavored because Shaheen's only at 7, and Hazoret basically next turn could represent 4 damage even without attacking. And so this might be a little tough. Also, Ben has Ramunap Ruins, so he has some damage coming out of his mana base.
Mm-hmm.
Shaheen's trying to figure out if he needs to be aggressive here. So if he attacks with the 2 Will of Virtuosos, it will tend to indicate either he has a way of like blocking or dealing with the Hazoret. Now, obviously, he could leave the Thopter back, but that's pretty dangerous in the face of a red deck because, you know, Ben probably has multiple ways to get rid of that Thopter. Okay. So Ben draws his second card. So he's got 2 cards in hand. He'll need to dump 1 to attack with Hazoret. You don't want to go into an attack step with 2 cards that often.
Shaheen's playing a Torrential Gearhulk here.
Yeah, so really...
Where are we at, though? It's hard because, you know, words.
Yeah, I think Shaheen's in quite a lot of trouble here. He doesn't really have an answer to Hazoret. Like, Shaheen's probably playing the Torrential Gearhulk to, like, cast the Harness Lightning. Harness Lightning doesn't kill Hazoret, so I suspect it's going to be on the Bomat Courier. The one good thing for Shaheen is that the Gearhulk can block the Hazoret and not die. So it's basically a way of keeping off Ben from actually attacking. So Ben is going to do something in response. I think he might be considering this. Oh, he's removing. He's using the. Yeah, he's removing the graveyard.
He's Scavenger Grounds?
Yes, so that Shaheen wasn't able to cast the card from Gearhulk.
Yeah. But it also means that attacking now with Hazoret the Fervent is pointless, as there's a 5/6 on the other side of the table.
Yeah, but he can block because he can obviously discard a card pretty much at will.
Yeah, and look at this. It's reduced Shaheen's attack force down to just the 1 in the air. You can see that Ben has brought in at least another copy of Hazoret from the sideboard as he's going to discard it to the other Hazoret. There's totally should have been a rule that says you can't do that. It just feels like cheating.
It's a flavor miss.
Or it's like, isn't it supposed to be a downside being legendary? So Ben is going to now play Chandra, revealing a shock.
Doesn't actually need to cast a shock to do the 2 damage. I think Shaheen might be actually at 3 because he discarded a card into him, and then used the Chandra. Now, I really think Shaheen's probably toast here because next turn, unless Chandra dies this turn, he can discard a card to Hazoret and use Chandra. So unless he has, I don't know, I can't really think of a card that actually gets him out of this situation. Before he cast the Supreme Will, he could have cast something like Confiscation Coup maybe on Hazoret to try and get out of the situation, but I think this is not going to be good enough.
This has been a really cool game to watch.
Yeah.
It felt like Shaheen had really taken control, and then somehow one hit with Hazoret plus Hazoret just existing seems to have swung this back to Ben.
Yeah, I actually think what happened here was that Will of Virtuoso isn't that great against Ben's post-sideboard deck. So, it looked like it looked like he actually, boarded them in because they're good against the aggressive red decks.
It's actually not good against Ben at all, is it?
Not really at all.
And that's it. Ben
Yeah.
Stark picks up the win. Great work for Ben there. That did not look like a game that he was likely to win in the middle portion, and he really turned it around. And those Whirler Virtuosos, they did not perform.
Yeah, no, I mean, it looked good on turn 3 when there was kind of no resistance from on bit side.
Anything would have, right? Like name the 3-mana spell that looks bad there. Anything that affects the board, you're pretty happy with.
Yeah.
Wow, so Ben Stark picks up the win there. That was pretty cool.
And it's good because Ben thought he was going to lose to control decks.
Yeah, but his sideboard plan ended up working out. He got crushed game 1 and then won the next 2. All right, well, we've got a short break to take here. When we come back, though, we'll have a time-shifted Magic for you here from Atlanta. Don't go anywhere.